the learning unit, this unit 3, is quite it requires you to do a lot of listening. I know it's boring and I'm gonna be going on and on, but trust me, it's worth it. But I know I will try by all means to pause here and there to raise some questions so that all of us, we don't fall asleep. I know it's a heritage weekend, but here and there, so from next week, that's when we will introduce, because this time around I don't want to just wait until the end of the tutorial weeks to go through the past question papers and go through the exercises. So we'll go on. When we finish the session or finish the unit, we will try by all means to quiz each other a bit. And when we begin the session the following week, we will try by all means to quiz each other and throw in a question or two so that you can get the idea of how your examiner will want, or the tone of your examiner will be like for your questions. And then again, so learning unit 3, we're going to be talking about how plants colonize land. So it's a diverse topic, if you want to put it like that, how the land plants is a pivotal event in Earth history, and how it took a million years through the series of evolutionary adaptations. And we'll go through some simplified overview of how plants transition into aquatic environments, into terrestrial environment. So here I've just put, I'm sure, or I'm given to understand that you guys have this document. So it's just, I didn't put up slides here, but we'll go through this. But if you are lucky, I will go through, I was preparing some PowerPoint slides, which you will also expect that I will summarize, and then I will send them through to you during the course of the week. But here, to complete this learning unit, you will need to refer again to pages 674 to 691 in chapter 9 of Campbell and others, 2015, like I've mentioned last time, that you need to make sure that you can access this textbook. If you can't, like what Ms. Shumaya was saying, please familiarize yourself with the My UNISA or the Moodle app, in which you can be able to access the study materials. And then, so looking at a lush landscape, it is difficult to imagine without any plants and other organisms how this universe of the Earth that we are in will be like for the more than first 3 billion years of Earth history. The terrestrial surface was lifeless. Since colonizing land, plants have diversified into approximately 290,000 living species. Plants have shown to have ability to inhabit all but the harshest environments, such as some mountainous top and desert areas and the polar ice sheet. So just meaning that the plants are so diverse that you can be able to find them in every. Last time we were talking about the tolerant, how some plants or some animals that eukaryotes or prokaryotes rather, sorry, are able to contain or maintain harsh environments. So these also plants are most also diverse that you can find them in almost even the harshest environmental conditions. Then we also going to take into consideration that we will refer to all plants as land plants, even though those are now aquatic. So that's what we call aquatic plants. Also, you'll find them if you just go to like a wetland, for a lack of a better word, you just say a river. So in a river, if you go to the edges of the river and you are ascending, mostly they call it a riparian zone in some studies of limnology and others. So if you go underneath, you'll find that there are some what we call aquatic plants. And in order to distinguish them from algae, which are photosynthesis plants, protists. So we'll go through that, which will be doing all this kind of comparison. And there's a question talking about algae. There's a question that if you are with your notes, or you are able, you have able to access them in a printout, please underline here. But in terms, there's a question that I saw about the algae. What are the importance of algae? What are the benefits of algae in the water, or in so much? Then you are able to do that. If I can just throw in a question there, what do you think? What is the importance of algae? So there's a variety. We will go through it. You don't have to worry yourself about that, but it's not that deep. So they are diverse. They are also part of diverse group of photosynthesis organism. Okay, we have an answer, people. So yes, student said to provide much of earth oxygen. Yes, earth oxygen. But if you just said earth oxygen, you are you are again falling into a trap of being too general. You see, but you're right. But you're right. It provides oxygen, so that there's a production of oxygen also, where they significantly are contributors to Earth oxygen production through photosynthesis. Yeah, so they convert the carbon dioxide into oxygen, where they will be helping to replenish or rejuvenate, if you can put it like that, oxygen in the atmosphere as the vital or form. Remember, previously we were talking about the aerobic conditions of which are for the oxygen dependent organism in life forms. Also, they're also part of what they call environmental indicators. So if you find the algae, so it indicates something about that type of wetland. So algae can serve as an indicator of water quality. Is that water of a good quality? So there's scientists or some aquatic scientists per se, they are able to determine if whether there is a certain types of species which occurs in that particular river, just by the mere factor of the algae. So if you find that there's an algae in the river, you are rest assured that you're going to find certain types of aquatic animals or stuff like that. So they serve as indicators in the presence of algae, such as indicating pollution or changes in environmental condition, making them various monitoring for aquatic ecosystem. And the most common importance of algae will be they play a crucial role in nutrient cycling. So in aquatic ecosystems, so they will take up nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus from the water, helping them to regulate the nutrient level. So this is essential for maintaining, once again, the water quality, of preventing events such as eutrophication, which can harm aquatic life. So don't worry about that. We'll also delve into this when we go further. So also, land plants make it possible for other life forms to survive on land, and plants supply oxygen during photosynthesis processes, and ultimately, the most of the food eaten by the terrestrial animals in such case. And moreover, the plant roots create habitats for other organisms by the stabilizing the soil. And the history into that is that the plant kingdom is a story of adaptation and changing of terrestrial conditions. So what you need to do to be aware of, I've mentioned that. So if you go through this document, there will be what you call learning outcomes. So learning outcomes will be what you need to the take out, something that you don't have to miss out, something that you need to make sure that you are guaranteed that you know. So questions such as name and discuss the evolutionary adaptation to living on land, characteristic of the four main groups of land plants, distinguish between the main groups of land plants, discuss the derived characteristic unique to land plants, to name the characteristic of common to land plants and their charophyon algae, describe the life cycle of mosses as well as the okay, Moses, however you pronounce it, as well as the structure of gametophyte and sporophyte generation, and describe the life cycle of ferns as well as the structure of their gametophyte and sporophyte generation. So these various life cycles, you need to know them, so that even if those who were attending BLG 1501, you saw that sometimes even if they're not gonna, your examiner is not gonna ask you to draw a life cycle or whatever diagram for that matter, but they can just present the diagram, and then in that diagram they can deduce various types of questions, such as multiple questions, such as a one-word question, or some even a visual questions, what we call visual questions, where they will refer you to a diagram to say, according to this diagram, name so and so, discuss this and this and this, or is this, and the what I always said is the worst case scenario for somebody who is unprepared, which is not you guys, because I know you guys are going to be prepared very thoroughly. But it's multiple choice questions, which if you didn't study for cases like this, you can fall into a trap where you see that every possible option which is there seems okay, like is the correct terminology. So this is what you're going to have to look out for. So if you go through the learning outcomes and you put this as your notes, and make sure that when you are done with this unit, you are knowing all of this as your own exercise. And also we will go through it, the summary or the conclusion of the unit. That's where, if you get the learning outcome and also the summary or conclusion of the outcome before you even go through it, and incorporate it as your outcomes when you are studying, you will be able to generate a very good things that you will be able to sense the tone of your examiner, and you won't be as blindsided when you go or deal with your assignment or your exam. But I'm gonna pack this for a while, and I just wanna go through some notes that I've generated, but it's also part of this, which you need to be able to be familiar with. And I will also share this with you. You don't need to be worried about taking the notes while I'm busy talking here. You just need to listen. Then, so how plants colonize land. So the background to it is that the evolution of plants obviously is a fascinating journey that spans millions of years. And like I said, plants play a crucial role in plants ecosystem, providing oxygen, food, shelter, and countless countless of organisms, including us as the number one culprits, which are beneficiaries for plants. Any other, if somebody just want to, the importance of plants in Earth that you want to just throw in there? What can you think of?
An importance of plants.
Yeah.
Oh, I can say that they provide us with oxygen.
Yes. The ones that are not here, that you can think about. You don't have to think that deep. You can just.
Okay.
Yeah.
They also act as food sources like vegetables,
yes,
fruits. Yes. We also use them as medicine.
Yeah, that's. And talking about the, I was telling the people from there's also another terminology for sun. So the people who normally study plants, from my knowledge, although there are people who you can do studies in different streams, focusing your study on plants, but they are normally called botanists. So there's one of the questions in BLG 1501 there, but the one that focus on the student you just mentioned, that they provide medicine. There are also The ones that focus mostly on the medicine are referred to mostly as ethnobotanists, where they study the medicinal plants and so forth and so on. So that's one of the crucial importance or role that they provide. They provide us with medicine. Any other reason or crucial role? Some of the roles that plant play in our ecosystem, in our plant ecosystem, it will be the things like simple things like erosion. So the roots help stabilize soils so that we can help reducing the erosion by wind and water. They play a role in preventing the soil degradation and maintaining the soil structure, and also it's part of the habitat support or biodiversity support, where plants contribute to plants diversity by providing wide variety of there's a terminology of niches and resources for other organisms, and diverse plants can support the diverse for animal communities. So there will be some, for instance, if you are talking about like, let's say Mopani, just making an example. So they grew up on Mopani trees. What's the name of the species name for Mopani tree? Forgot the name of it, but if the Mopane worms, they inhibit or they use the Mopane trees as their shelter for a number of countless organisms. So without plants, there's a huge imbalance in our plant ecosystem. So understanding the evolution of plants is essential in comprehending the history of Earth, which is one of the main purpose of this unit. So plants have evolved from a single cell organism to diverse array of species that we see today, and the evolution of plants began approximately 500 million years ago during over the Ordovician period. And at that time, the Earth's surface was mostly barren with no forests, grassland, and the algae were among the first plants to evolve, and they thrive in the nutrient-rich waters or in the oceans. So right there in this statement, I don't understand why my slide is doing this. So right there, if yes, here already. So in a one-word terminology, if they can just ask there, say you need to make sure that when you get a hold of this, when you're studying, you need to make sure that you underline this and watch it out for potential questions that could sprout or emanate. So they can just say the first plants to evolve on the first one of the first plants to evolve and which thrive in the nutrients waters, then you will know that they are talking or they are referring to an algae. And when you talk about evolution, there have to be approximately a 500 million, more than 500 million years ago, during which the Ovarian period. So you might actually also need to highlight this so that when they throw in terminologies like this, you are able to know that they are referring to this. So over time, these early plants adapted. What are they talking about? They're talking about the algae now. These early plants adapted to survive on land, developing structures such as stems, roots, and roots and leaves. So these are the adaptations or the characteristics that they have to develop in order for them to survive on land. So a question can be thrown there to say, what are the three adaptations that the plants evolve over time in order for them to adapt to survive on land? You're gonna have to underline and say it's stems, roots, and leaves. The question might not actually stand like this, but these are the significant important factors that you need to watch out for. Student, do you mind if you can just unmute yourself? Okay, thank you. There's somebody else who needs to mute themselves. Sorted, right? Okay. There's still a hand. Is it an old hand or student? Or you've got a question or clarity that you need? I'll assume that's an old hand, yeah. All right. So
apologies, it's been muted. Apologies.
All right, no problem. Yeah. So over time, this these early plants adapted to survive on land through the structures such as the stems, leaves, and roots. So also there's a potential. We're still gonna talk about a lot of things where there's types of roots, where there's adaptational roots and what they're adapted to, what are the significant with the roots, how roots help the structure of plants in the type of or habitat, or in the types of habitat, the kind of habitats, like I said, the forest, rainforest, or grassland, or semi-savanna grassland, or such structure like that. But we're still gonna go through all of that. This transmission or this transition had to, Miss Shemaya, I see your hand.
My sincerest apologies,
Yes.
Mr. Nilufule. Just an announcement that I made in the previous class and yet overlooked in this one. My sincerest apologies is to inform students that these sessions are recorded. They are then sent for editing, and that they are then posted onto the UNISA YouTube site for the BLG1502 students to view. However, please be ensured that every precaution is being made to ensure that we comply with the Popeye Act, and that your personal information, students, does not appear in those videos. So just information that it's important for you to know. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. So the transition from water to land was a pivotal moment in the evolution of plants. So the evolution of plants continue to progress. That when we're talking, remember when we're talking about evolution, it is something, it's a change. We mentioned that it's a change, and the key terminology is that it's a change that doesn't happen instantly. It's a gradual change. It happens over time, and the process, it has to progress. That we then, for this evolution of plants, it continue to progress with the development of more complex plant structures and reproductive stages. And by the Silurian period, around 430 million years ago, plants evolved vascular tissues, which evolved them to transport water and nutrients to their bodies. And this kind of like technological innovation, but it's not an technological innovation in a sense, but it's an innovation which enabled them to grow taller and larger, forming the first forest. And with the evolution of seeds, plants gain the ability to produce without the need of water, furthering expanding their habitats and diversifying for their species. And the evolution of plants have been shaped by various factors, that such as climate change, obviously, interaction with other organisms, and geographical events. So let's just say for visual argument, there's an environment, or there's an habitat. Let's say it's a habitat of a forest or a bush. In that bush, there are monkeys, there are baboons, there are like elephants, there are like the zebras, other animals, impalas. There's a warthog, everything. There's even insects that are there. But let's talk about the mammals that feeds on there, and there are trees which are fruits there. And what do you think is one of the factors that shape that habitat? where you will find that if, for instance, there were 3 fig trees this year, then 10 years later, when you go there, or 5 years later, you find that there are like five or more than 20 fig trees in that habitat. What is the contributing factor? What do you think happens there in that scenario? I know it's a complicated question, or am I asking a wrong question? But what do you think is the number one contributor to help the plants to distribute themselves? I'm sure somebody will say the roots, but you find that there's a fig tree here. 5 years later, nobody planted that tree, but 5 years later or 10 years later, it's in the same habitat, but a kilometer away, there's another fig tree. What do you think happens?
Okay, I think it's all about how the animals feed. So some animals, when they feed on the figs, like the plants, right? When they feed on the figs, they take in the seeds. Then the seeds are distributed through excrement.
Perfect. Yeah. So the interaction with other organisms, especially animals, is that there will be what we call things like seed dispersal. So so you find a fella like a baboon will just feed on some fruit, and then it travels further apart from the original where it got the fruit, and then before you know it, there's a seed dispersal upon the whole habitat. So there's that point of helping where there's interaction, which help the evolving and shaping the various factors to make sure that, as a matter of fact, the plants it's distributed across the habitat, which can be complicated when we go further, when we're talking about the indigenous species versus alien, or invasive indigenous species versus alien species. But we'll go further on that. But this is the kind of distribution which occurs. Studying evolution of plants is not only important in understanding the past, but also in predicting the future. We mentioned that in terms of research, the most important part of the research is not to outline what you do, but also to have the conclusionary remarks to say what is it that needs to happen, which plants are like, I'm just shooting for an example. If somebody say, oh, these are alien invasive species, so these are problematic species, they need to be removed. So there have to be control fires in this area. There have to be, if these plants are removed, like if for let's say case in point, there's a rich people who wanna start a town somewhere in Musina. I'm just making an example. In Musina, and they call you guys UNISA students. They say go and investigate that. So in terms of environmental AA or whatever, you go and investigate. Then you guys go and investigate. And according to biology 1502, if we clear this species, this tree plant species, if we clear this, yes, we're gonna have a more, but there's gonna be a ecological imbalance. So which means if we remove this tree species, we have affected some animal species. We have affected a whole lot of food chains, which is going to cause an ecological imbalance. And then they have to go back to the drawing board and see how much, or what's the way forward. So as our planet faces environmental challenges such as climate change and habitat destruction, what are the reasons for habitat destruction that you think of? Think of where you stay. If you come from a rural areas, if you are not a city person, what does it mean for habitat destruction?
Well, in some cases, it's obviously used to gather certain materials, like trees are used to make paper, and obviously for farming as well.
Yes.
Agricultural purposes, and obviously
yes,
and everything.
Perfect. So the tricky part about habitat destruction is that there's a battle between scientists, or who can you call people who are developers. So scientists will come across as people who are like, you hate development. We're trying to create jobs. We're trying to create clear this, there's going to be a farm. If there's a farm, then there's a the problem of food security. If we put a farm for macadamia, for avocado, for whatever that you're farming, people are going to get food, people are going to get jobs. So why are you standing in this? But there's also that perspective where you have to know that if there are some plant species west which are only endemic. We actually know of a tree species called, I will research about that. Remind me which only grow only in one particular area. It's called in my vernacular language is called Mutabatsindi. I'll ask my friend. My friend is a botanist. He was studying about that. It's so weird, that tree. If you can get even the roots, the young trees, you can, even some villages which are nearby, they try to plant it. They can't grow it. It only grow in that particular area only. So if you clear that area, so it's just gonna be gone forever and forever. And I'm not sure by where else it grows in this country, or I'm sure it might be growing else in another northern African country, but it's so weird. It just baffles me that you just have a plant species which grow only in one part of the area, and you take everything, you go and plant it elsewhere. You can't. It just can't. So knowing how plants have adapted and evolved in the past can provide insight into how they may respond to the current and future threat, yes. And by studying the evolution of plants, scientists can discover new plant species, uncover potential medicinal plants, yes, and develop strategies for sustainable agriculture. So there have to be a balance between agriculture and preserving the plant species. So it has to be sustainable. It doesn't have to be just to be I want to grow this. So there's a mechanism where you guys as scientists, you can even advise the farmers, because sometimes the not the small scale but the large scale farmers, when they are growing certain particular type of farming that they're farming, they tend to spray, if there's an enemy of that particular plant that they are farming, whatever that is going to compete with whatever that they're farming, they just want to eradicate it by any means necessary, even if it means spraying. So if, let's say they're spraying some plant species which is a danger to whatever that they're farming, you might find that they are also affecting also some insects, some insects such as maybe what you call it, steam bugs, or whatever that they may be interacting with those habitat, because they, in the name of the fact that they just want to eradicate whatever which is an enemy of that which they're planting. So by studying evolution of plants, you guys or scientists can also discover the new plant species which we can uncover potential strategies to do sustainable agriculture and sustainable development when there's able to be a development in a particular area or in a particular institution. So also new plant species are discovered every now and again, and I'm sure most of you, if you're gonna go and further your studies potentially in botany, you will study some different species. While you are focusing on a certain species, you think, oh, I've discovered a subspecies. Then you discover a species, it's a whole new species at all, and then that's your discovery, and then you can be able to deduce what is it that can come after. So the overall evolution of plants is captivating subject that shed a light on the interconnectedness of all life on Earth. So I always say that plants are very significant and they're very important. So the examples of the plants in the bee I've told you is the algae, which is a concrete example of plant evolution, which is the development of algae. Algae was among the first. So this one, nobody's gonna get it wrong in this model today. Don't ask me where I saw it, but I saw it in one of your past question papers. So where you find that they're saying in one word terminology. Remember, we're doing one word terminology in BLG1501, those who attend. So where you're gonna have to be one of the which was among the first to involve approximately 500 million years ago, then you will know that they're referring to algae. So these single cell organisms thrive in the nutrient-rich waters of the oceans, adapting to survive in the aquatic environment. And we're still gonna talk further and into depth about the algae. Don't worry about that. We're still gonna delve into that in more. Then there's also the transition from water to land, where another concrete example will be, remember we touched a bit about this previously in the previous slide, where we're talking about the example of transmitting to which occur in plant evolution. And as plants adapted to survive in a terrestrial environment, they develop structures such as stems, leaves, and roots. And this transition was pivotal moment in plant evolution and allowed the colonization of land. Talking about that, right? I just want to pause here and throw in a question. Any habitat within ecosystem that you can think of when you're talking about plants? Types of habitats. So there will be habitats for which plants inhabit. I don't know if I'm putting the question correctly, but any types of habitats that you can think of where plants inhabit? Anyone? Or your question doesn't make sense?
So maybe please ask it again, sir. I wanna give it a try.
Yeah. So what the habitats in which plants inhabit? Types of habitats.
Like where we can find plants.
Yes, where we can find plants. In the ecosystem, let's say, okay, let me put it like this, where you can find the habitats of plants within an ecosystem with their, yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure whether I'm answering it correctly, but
no, you probably are.
Like terrestrial habitat, the land, forest, yes, and also aquatic habitat.
Yes.
In water.
Yes, perfect. Yeah. Any other one that you can think of?
There is something in the chat box.
Yes, forest. Yes, I like even the desert one. Yeah, I'm actually looking for such desert. And where else? You actually know this. It's also, if you go to your stoop also, also there's one that you can find also in the what's the name of the, we'll talk about that, the bryophytes when we talk about the life cycle of the, even in grassland. Yes, also so the plants they inhibit a wide variety of habitats within ecosystem, if I may put it like that. And but the critical point is that they have to they have its own unique sets of environmental conditions which they inhibit, like one of the students mentioned. So if we're talking about the terrestrial habitats, when we're talking about the terrestrial habitats, we'll be talking about habitats such as forest, grassland, like you said, the desert. And if we're talking about the forest, we'll be talking about the habitats such as tropical rainforest, which is a temporary deciduous forest with or the borehole forest. And each type of forest it's characterized by each own plant species, where you'll find that mostly in the terrestrial rainforest, you'll find that there will be the tree plant species is characterized by tall trees, which in some form, if you are moving up the mountains, they can form what you call a canopy, where you find that on the ground, you will find that on the ground is just a rocky ground, and it's categorized with full of leaves, where you can even think that is a ground, but it's just full of leaves, and then you're going up the mountain, and also others such as a grassland, where it's such a savanna grassland, and peripheries where the grasses dominate the landscape, with a mixture of herbaceous plants and occasional trees such as shrubs and all of that. And also I like the one that another student put on the chat box there, which said desert. So desert, some plants, like we mentioned before, they can inhibit, or they can occur in harsh, in arid environment, with what they know as specialized desert adapted plants that can withstand extreme condition, which are limited with water. So there you're gonna have to know that these are the tree plants, or the plant species with specialized roots, which can be able to withstand harsh condition, which, for instance, they can spend quite a number of time before they receive water. And also the mountainous, where the habitats at high elevation, with plants which are adapted to low temperature conditions. And also there's what we call, like one of the students mentioned, the aquatic habitats, where we talk about freshwater habitats, which includes either rivers, lake, ponds, or streams, where aquatic plants like water lilies, pond weeds, and kettles are common. And also the marine habitats, and also the wetlands, and what I've mentioned before, such as riparian habitats, which are riparian zones, are found along the river banks. Yeah, some of the people call them river banks. So most of the time you find that the edge of the river, some refer them as river banks, but I think that the scientific or the clinical terminology is riparian zones. And the riparian zone, the good thing about the riparian zones is that they are very rich, because that's where is near the stream, or is near the river banks, reducing erosion and providing habitat with a diverse range of plants, including trees and shrub and herbaceous species. So what you call, scientists call them, I don't call them, scientists call them naughty farmers. They prefer most to farm in the riparian zone, because they know that whatever that they are planting, or whatever that they are farming, it will be rich, and they will have a success. And there's also what you guys don't want to talk about, called urban habitats, where plants, you see even here in cities, plants which are adapt to urban environment, with many species growing in cities, parks, and gardens. Urban plants, and which often include street trees. The street trees you find when you're walking, like the most common one in Pretoria, I think it's jacaranda, which one you see most of the time. And you can just see the ornamental plants and green roofs. And some which you guys don't want to talk about are called the cave or underground habitats, which are plants like cave mosses, ferns, that grow in unique conditions within the caves, where they rely on minimal light and humidity. And there's also some rock habitats, where the plants called lithophytes. We mentioned a little bit of that when we were talking last week. If we didn't, then I saw it somewhere among your notes that we're going to talk about, where they grow directly on rocks using cracks and crevices from the moisture, and those are able to withstand those environmental conditions, and they are able to go through that. And when we go forward, there's also evolution of vascular tissues, where the development of vascular tissues is another example of plant evolution, where around 440 million years ago. So you don't need to worry about over explanation, or thinking that, oh, will these people ask me? As far as I saw your past question papers, you don't need to worry about to explain, but somebody's going to ask you to explain, to say around 430 million years ago plants evolved. But you just have to read through this and be able to see what they're talking about, and have a clear a chronological sense of how the evolution started when we're talking about the land plants, or the how plants colonized land. Therefore, then you will watch out for some sort of an important terminologies which your examiner can deduce a question from. And this innovation enabled plants to grow taller and larger, forming a first forest, these vascular tissues, and the evolution of seeds. Seeds are important. The evolution of seeds is a significant milestone in plant evolution, with the development of seeds plants, which gain the ability to reproduce without the need of water. That's just some also a good mechanism. So this adaptation further expanded their habitats to and diversified their species. So adaptation is a terminology. So adaptation, you have to adapt. You have to adapt. So when we talk about evolution, we talk about adaptation. You have to adapt. You have to adapt. You have to have traits that will be passed on to the next offspring. So if you don't have traits, and if you don't adapt, if you don't have traits that will equip you to adapt, then your who you are or that particular species will be extinct. So the number, somebody will say, but this is plant, but we'll talk about this further, because the biggest competition in plants is between the endemic species and alien invasive species. And we will talk even further how the alien species will outcompete the endemic species in terms of water, in terms of how the space, the roots, and all of that, how they end up. Well, when in an instance you find that we just introduced one particular species, but when you come back 10 years later or sometimes later, you find that that particular species which you just introduced not so long ago is the only one which is now more advanced, or more, in some cases you don't even need to introduce it. There's what you call, there's a terminology called, not terminology, there's a concept called disturbance. Call it plants disturbance, where if you just, that's why things like clearing of the land, it really needs to be done properly, or have to have a strategic. So you just clear a land. When you just clear a land, let's say, for a lack of a better word, there were people who were, you know how people in township are, they just put like because the municipality is not collecting the dust or the bins, and because the workers are striking for more than 2 months, then the people started to take matters into their own hands. They just found a gap where there's a bush, they start to throw the rubbish there. They throw the rubbish, one person start, 3-4 loads. Before you know it, within a week, there's a pile of dirt there. When there's a pile of dirt, a month later, the municipality is like, okay, there's a pile of death. Some people who complain that, so we need to go and clear the land. When they go and clear the land, this called disturbance. You clear the land, you clear. For some reason, an alien just started to grow there. Later on, you found that there's a new species which is emerging in that area, and later on, it starts to compete the endemic species. And so that's how some of the evolution of seeds, or some species, will have to gain the ability to reproduce even without the need of water, and the adaptation into that sense. And the other one is the interaction with other organisms, which is so important. The interaction, when we talk about the interaction, we have to talk about the community, we have to talk about ecosystem, we have to talk, even when we go up to the level of biosphere, excuse me. And the evolution of plants is also influenced by the interaction with other organisms. And it does not necessarily have to be plants species interaction, but it's fine. Let's go further. For example, the co-evolution between flowering plants and their pollinators, such as bees and butterflies, which has led to the diversification of both plants and animal species. And furthermore, we also have, excuse me, the climate change. The climate change, which is a big scientific problem, which is, so every project, or every research, for example, for obvious reasons, it involved the climate change. So your certain species that is your focus is somehow, somewhere affected by climate change. It's affecting everybody. So the climate change has played a role in shaping the evolution of plants also. For instance, during the periods of global cooling, the plants adapted to survive in colder environment by evolving mechanism to survive, or to equip themselves to be able to have things that they will evolve, so that the adaptation will be passed on to the next generation, such as developing waxy cuticles or growing closer to the ground to conserve the heat. So most of the things that animals do, also plants do. So they develop some adaptations in order for them. What am I doing here? Yeah, in order for them to survive the harsh mechanism, so that they will be also be conserved, so that they are passed on to the next generation. And another example will be the medicinal plants that one of you also mentioned. So medicinal plants, and it's good that the indigenous, or the tradition, what you were called traditional plants. So the evolution of plants is not only important in understanding the past, but it was a practical implication in medicine. So there are a lot of discoveries, either formal or informal. I don't know what's the term that I'm looking for people who there's also, even in our culture, there's always been that indigenous knowledge that our grandparents had, that if you've got a problem with a tooth, your grannies or grandfather or grandmama always know what is it that you need to take, which kind of plants that you can go and take, and if you scratch yourself in the tooth, then within a time or so, you will be able to be sorted out. What I know of is I still remember when I was very young. I was very young. I think I was 10 or 13 years old. And we come from rural areas, so we didn't have this in summer, what these chemicals to repel the mosquitoes. So yeah, my aunt used to have like tree leaves where we can even put them, or squeeze them, then it will be quiet. So there's always been an indigenous knowledge, even culturally, where you know which kind of plants that you can use that can heal you for something. Anybody who just want to give us a fun fact about a certain thing that maybe we didn't know about, which the plant species can help with? No? The millenniums. Okay. Yeah, so by studying evolution of plants, scientists can discover new plant species with potential medicinal properties. In terms of pharmaceutical industry is also a big thing, where the pharmaceutical industry and the botanical industry, they can measure and get combined and be able to come out with some sort of a discovery. For example, the study of plant evolution has led to the discovery of plant-derived drugs such as aspirin, Taxol, and quinine. So all these common medicines or drugs that you know of, most of them, it was the discovery by scientists such as yourself. And I'm hoping, and we hope, that even through the further research, we'll have more discovery, and especially now when there's the mainstream is beginning to accept or embrace the indigenous knowledge, where if there's an indigenous knowledge, you are able to also embrace which plants are good for the kind of disease or sickness that people have, and then you can be able to monetize it and include it or incorporate into drugs which can be accessible by everybody. And then when they are accessible to everybody, then they could be able to have somebody who is responsible for. So also sustainable agriculture, which is one of the most important a factor, especially when we're talking about the food security. So if you see countries like China, India, and even in Africa, there's a growing concern of population. The population is growing. So when the population is growing, there's now a threat of food security where there have to be a demand for food, a demand for access to food. We don't want to get into that, but there are some countries where there's still a lack of food and all of that. So understanding the evolution of plants is crucial in the developing strategies for sustainable agriculture. Therefore, by studying how plants have adapted to the environmental condition in the past, scientists can develop crop variety that are more resilient to climate change, that are more resilient to pests, that are more resilient to diseases, ensuring the food security for food. So, like for instance, like macadamia. So macadamia, you can do what? You can do nuts. You can do even some lotion materials. If I'm not mistaken, also derived from macadamia farming. So even some food materials. But the one that I'm commonly known is macadamia nuts, which are used. There's a huge commercial of macadamia nuts. And fun fact, I'm just ensuring this: macadamia nuts is the #1 contributor in agriculture. You won't believe it. #1 is Australia in the world. The second one is South Africa. But the main enemy of macadamia is pests. That pests, being it a sting bug. So scientists can develop crop variety that are more resilient. So when they're more resilient, you can be able to derive and advise that what is that how can these plants be resilient to pests, to diseases, and so that there could be an surety that those structures or those plants are more resilient to withstand those pests or those climate change. Or case in point, in those macadamia study, there was also a group of researchers which also were able to advise the farmers, to convince the big scale farmers, to convince them to say, you know what, you can spend less if you stop this spraying. And be spraying, it affects other plant species. It will destroy the habitat of the structure of your habitat in the long run, by just making sure that if you can just build a cage and know that there's a insectivorous pest who feeds on the pest, and the pest can be, then there could be a biological control there, which therefore you don't need to spend more money in spraying, because spraying is expensive, and also you are saving and you're preserving the habitat in a sustainable manner. So agriculture has to be sustainable. It has to be sustainable. There have to be sustainable farming. It doesn't have to, for a lack of a better word, it doesn't have to be reckless. So I know most of you guys who are going to be starting the farming, but when you're farming, it has to be sustainable. Sustainable in a sense that, okay, if you, in a few years time, you no longer want to plant whatever that you're planting, will there be a rejuvenation of that particular plant species which were there? Will there still be an effect in terms of erosion, in terms of habitat structure, in terms of ecological structure among the nearby communities into that? So that you find that if you are farming, it derive a lot of water, and then if your farming is on an upper scale or in an upper scale, then the communities which are on a downscale, will they be affected? One, because your farming will be consuming a lot of water and all that. So there have to be a sustainable agriculture where by studying how plants adapted to different environments in the past, therefore crop varieties can be more resilient to climate change and pests and diseases to ensure the food security in the future. Because the main goal also, what also a farming, is to ensure that we are also practicing a little bit of economy so that the economy can also go forward. So the importance of land colonizing for plants is that the evolution of plants is a fascinating subject, like we mentioned, that traces the diversification for plants over millions of years. So one critical, so here when I put on the what I put on my slides, it may not necessarily be on the same chronological order or in the same order as in your notes. So just pardon me for that. But it's still the same or the same depth in terms of importance or in terms of what you need to find or what you need to know in that manner. So the importance of land colonization for plant evolution is that the evolution of plants, we've mentioned, is a fascinating subject that traces the development of diversification of plants for life over a million years. So one critical aspect of evolution is the importance of land colonization for plant development. So before plants colonized land, they were predominantly aquatic, meaning that they were relying on water for production, also nutrients uptake and structural support. However, the colonization of this land allowed the plants to adapt and thrive in diverse terrestrial environment. It sounds like it's a repetition of what we've been talking about, but there is a different. If you pay attention, you'll be able to take it or take a note or two. So land colonization was a significant milestone in plant evolution because it offered plants in numerous advantages. One key advantage was access to sunlight. We know that sunlight is important. Because you guys are so quiet, and I get worried when people are so quiet. What is the importance of sunlight in plants? So what is the importance of sunlight in plants?
I think it's for photosynthesis to provide energy. It is more like the source of energy.
Yes. You're right. And the other one. So that is the one key advantage that the colonization of land plants evolution, they got one access was sunlight. So sunlight is a very paramount, or is a very important to plants because it plays several roles in terms of it helps in growth, it helps in development, and it also helps very significantly with their functioning. Yeah, like you said, it also helps in photosynthesis, which is photosynthesis. I think it's a primary energy source for photosynthesis, which is a fundamental process where the plants, they convert their carbon dioxide and water into glucose and oxygen, and the process provide they provide the energy in general. They provide the energy and organic compounds needed for the plants to grow and for metabolism. I know you forgot about that one. So for metabolism also, and also for processes such as energy production. But we're gonna talk about this where we talk about the glucose production, which through the process of photosynthesis, and also the process such as biomass production. We'll talk about the sunlight, where it's essential for the accumulation of biomass in plants, which derive the production of leaf stems and roots and the production of structural components which needed for their growth, and also the process such as chlorophyll production, such as where the synthesis of chlorophyll, the green pigment which is responsible for what? For capturing the light energy during the photosynthesis, where there will be that kind of a process, and also the flowering and reproduction, where there will be a reproduction and things like a temperature regulation, where there have to be a regulation. They have to regulate their own temperature. So sunlight provides the heat energy that helps to regulate the temperature of the plants, so that it can warm the plants during the day, and in some cases it can protect it from the frost in the night or in the evening. So those are such of the, and also in the sunlight also help in the production of oxygen in the process. As a byproduct of photosynthesis, plants release what? Oxygen, and into the atmosphere, which is essential for respiration for other organisms, including animals and us as human beings. So there's also such significant in terms of sunlight. Therefore, by colonizing land, these plants were able to grow taller and utilize the abundant sunlight available above water surfaces. This led to the complex of vascular system. What are those vascular systems? Such as the xylem and phloem, which allow for the efficiency of transport and water and nutrients throughout the plant. So as a result, plants were able to grow larger and more structurally diverse, leading to the evolution of trees, shrubs, and other terrestrial plant forms. Students, is your hand? Is it an old hand? There's a student who's raising their hand. I'm assuming it's an old hand, and I will move on. Yeah, so therefore, another crucial advantage, we talk about the advantages that when you get access to this, or I will highlight them before I send them to you, is the advantage of sunlight. And another crucial advantage of land colonization was the ability to reproduce without relying solely on water. So the previously, in order for them to reproduce, you need water. So aquatic plants typically reproduce through the dispersal of spores. The land plants, they will reproduce the dispersal of seeds, but these ones, they reproduce the dispersal of spores or gametes in the water, which limits their range and the dispersal potential. So on land, what happens is that plants evolve various reproductive adaptations, such as production of seeds and pollen, allowing for more efficient dispersal through the wind, animals, and other mechanisms. So that dispersal, we talk about dispersal. What student we talk about seed dispersal? It does not necessarily only occur through animals or people or birds when they feed on some plant species. They fly over to a different location and they go and poop there, and then there's nutrients there. When there's water, then there's new plants which is going to occur. But also the wind also play a significant role in act as an exacerbator for dispersal through such wind and other mechanisms. So I haven't seen this kind of question, but yeah, one, if your examiner can just say efficiencies dispersal through, you can just say wind, animals, and other mechanisms. So this increased reproductive success. So it's a success. So in order for in evolution, remember we're talking about evolution, the colonization with the evolution. Yeah. So in evolution, in order for you to survive, you have to be able to adapt and reproduce. So when you reproduce, you stand more chance that your offspring will be passed on and will be passed on to the next generation. So the increased reproductive success and colonization potential, enabling plants to populate wide range of terrestrial habitats. Then in conclusion, is that the importance of land colonization for plants evolution cannot be overestimated. And by venturing into land, plants gain access to sunlight, develop complex vascular system, and diversify their reproductive strategies. This adaptation allow plants to thrive and dominate terrestrial environments, shaping the ecosystem as we see it today. And understanding the significance of land colonization will provide valuable insights into a remarkable journey of plants evolution and the crucial role plants they play in planet's biodiversity. What is biodiversity?
Is it variation within the biosphere?
You tell me.
It's variation in the biosphere, sir.
All right. Anybody else? Yes, you are right. You are right. It's a variety. So it's a variety of biological species or communities in the variety in the life as we see it on Earth. So, but the key terminology, remember, okay, like I said in Blg1501, when you are giving a description or a definition, your examiner, there's already a key that they already are looking for in the memorandum. So if you put a variety, you are safe in that per se. But your right conclusion is that it's a biological diversity which refers to the variety of life on Earth, and it encompasses the wide range of living organisms, including plants, microorganism, ecosystem, as well as, although you don't want to, we're not going to delve into it now, as well as the genetic the differences within species. And it can include all the variety such as species diversity, genetic diversity, ecosystem diversity, and when we have the ecosystem stability and biodiversity. But that's definitely it. So the insights of this remarkable plant journey in evolution plays a crucial role in our planet biodiversity. The concrete example of evolution of plants and the importance of land color will then include the mosses. So the mosses are the small non-vascular plants that typically grow in moist environment, and they rely on water for production, as their spores need water source to disperse and to germinate. And despite their limited ability to colonize land, mosses plays a vital role in preventing soil erosion, and also they provide a habitat for other organisms. So there's also a significant for this kind of species is that they're not that I struggle to find that there is such a thing that as useless or insignificant plant species. So not that there is any, even in plant or even in animal or even in terms of insects or that, but some are in terms of animals and insects, and some it's very difficult to deduce their significance, their visible significance or their economic significance. But in terms of animals, you really can just see that there's a significance in the helping to prevent the soil erosion and providing habitats for other organisms. And then those ferns are vascular plants that were among the earliest to colonize the land. So, and they developed the specialized structure called fronds, which allow them to capture the sunlight and to grow taller. So the fronds, here is the function of the fronds. The fronds function is to allow them, or to allow the specialized structure of the ferns to capture sunlight and for them to help them to grow taller. The ferns reproduce through spores also and still require moist for successful fertilization. There's going to be a time to go through this, where we're going to go through the life cycle of these organisms in order for them to see how we can structure them and see them. And the third one will be gymnosperms. Gymnosperms are such as conifers, are the diverse group of seeds producing plants that first appeared in the fossil record around 360 million years ago. The gymnosperms do not produce the fruits, but they rely on wind for pollination and seed dispersal. And their adaptation to land allowed them to dominate forest and adapt to various climatic conditions. And we're going to go through them later on. And also the angiosperms. Angiosperms or flowering plants are the most diverse group on planet Earth. So there's, you see that the description of this terminology, there's also, so the gymnosperms are the first the diverse seed producing plants that first appeared on fossil record. The ferns are the vascular plants that were among the earliest to colonize the land. The mosses are the small non-vascular that grows in moist environment. So please watch out for the description, because the description can help you to just understand the other question that may appear. And they evolve within the last 140 million years and have adapted to a wide range of terrestrial habitats, and the development of flowers allow for more efficient pollination by the insects, birds, and other animals. And the fruits develop as a way for angiosperm to protect and disperse their seeds, ensuring the survival of and colonization potential in which they can be able to go through. And the other one will be trees. The colonization of trees of land ultimately led to the evolution of trees. Trees are tall, they're woody, they're well development, they develop vascular system, they can absorb water and nutrients from the soil and transport them through the leaves and xylem and phloem. Trees provide various benefits such as production of sequestration and habitat for countless of organisms. What other benefits do you think trees provide? I like this one. Somebody says shelter. Anybody else in the comments? Think about the economy. Think of where you are sitting at now. Think of your furniture. Any other benefits besides the shelter? They provide wood, yes. So trees, as you know, I understand you guys are tired. Yeah, I've been talking for too long. So trees play crucial roles in ecosystem, and they provide a wide range of benefits and positive both to environment and to us as human beings. But like we mentioned here, they play a role in carbon sequestration, where trees absorb and store carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, helping it to mitigate. The word mitigate, yes, they are also, as the student mentioned, a good benefit. They are food source, yes. They are one good source of food production, but in terms of carbon sequestration, where they help into mitigate the climate change. Remember, we talk about climate change. And then you will hear most of the time when there's campaign to grow trees. Let's say trees are up in global climate change, in global warming, and yeah. So They are right, yes, because the climate change by reducing greenhouse gas concentration, which is a process known as carbon sequestration, which is a vital fight against global warming. Also habitat and biodiversity. So the trees, like what the other student mentioned there, to say shelter, they provide the benefit of the shelter in terms of biohabitat. Trees provide habitat and food for a wide variety of species. So including birds, mammals, insects, and some fungi. So forests in particular are a biodiverse ecosystem supporting numerous animal species. And they also help, the trees get this, they also help, they can also help in soil protection. So the roots of the trees will help to stabilize soil, preventing erosion by wind and water, and they also improve the soil structure and nutrient content through the decomposition of fallen leaves and organic matter. And also they help, which is one of the most important benefits that we often overlook when we think of trees, especially the people who stay near the mining areas. They help with air quality improvement. Trees can filter and remove pollutants from the air, such as sulfur oxide, nitrogen oxide, and particulate matter, which improve air quality in human health. And also the other benefit that we can get is also the water management. On the trees can reduce the risk of flooding by absorbing and storing rainwater through their roots, also help filter pollutants from the ground water, contributing to cleaner sources. And this is the economic benefit also, which talk about the timber and non-timber products, where trees are valuable source of wood. I see in the chat box there, one of you mentioned the good benefits. They said they provide wood. Yes, they provide wood and other forest product used in construction, furniture, paper, and other industrials, non-timber products like the nuts, fruit. So the paper that you're using, that you're writing on, so the timber and non-timber product, it's a huge economic effect industry, which even in the upper areas, it contributes a lot to our GDP. If you are doing some economics somewhere, also as your additional model. Yes, and also they are good for medicine. They are also part of medicine. Yes, you are right, student. And they also we also have benefits from healthy forestries, like what you're saying for medicine. Trees contribute to local economics through forestry and tourism, providing opportunity for income. Like do you know about the big tree? Anybody know about the big tree? Up there in the north, like it's like people just drive there and drive there to go to view that. It's called Big Tree. Is what the name of that place is called? Chipisa, I think. Yeah, in the north, near the border between South Africa and Zimbabwe, in the north. So I once took a picture there, and while I was in some conference, when I just introduced that picture, somebody was like excited. Yeah, I've been there too. And so when you go there, it's a big tree. It's a big tree. I know it doesn't make sense if you kind of like, really a tree. Yeah, it's like a big tree. If you go on your Google and say big tree in Chipisa, you'll find it. It's in an area which is protected. You actually pay. I think it's like 50 rand, or 50 rand or so, or less, to enter, and you just go and take pictures. But it's big. It's a good tourism zone, so it helps income and community. So there's a benefit in nutrient cycling. They play by absorbing nutrients from the soil, retaining them to the leaves, branches, and themselves decomposing into the ecosystem. And also they play a role in Cultural significance. Trees hold cultural, spiritual significance in many societies, and they are often used for rituals and traditional practices, which are significant in our cultures or some of our cultures, where there's also a significant trace into that. Any question up to so far? All right, let me just go back to your notes, but please don't freak out, but your notes are exactly the same. I'm gonna use the 2022. Is there, I see a chart? Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's the old chart. Is the same as the one that you got today in your study materials, but I just prefer to use this one. So I'm sure you have this, but it's probably is the same thing that you have with your in your tutorial later. But I just want to also add this kind of information here. So the evolutionary adaptation to terrestrial living, and we're left with 20 minutes. Living and the phyla of the extant plants is that the land plants evolve from green algae. Why? Because we mentioned that the algae were the first ones to see. Can you see? So the charophyans are the green algae, which are most closely related to land plants, and the land plants are probably derived from a group of green algae called charophytes, and they share the following characteristics with the traits for charophyans, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and the rosal cellulose synthesis complexes, which are land plants, and the charophyll, which possesses the rosette shape array of proteins that synthesize cellulose and macrophobites in their cell wall, and other algae containing cellulose wall, such as brown algae, dinoflagellates, which have linear arrays of cellulose producing proteins. This suggests the common ancestor. If we have to go through the phylogenetic analysis, the rosette synthesis system involved independently of the cellulose making system of other green algae, and the perissosome enzymes, which are the charophyans and land plants, have enzyme in their perissosomes that minimize the loss of carbohydrates caused by the photorespiration, and other alga groups do not have these enzymes, which enzymes the perissosomes. So you need to watch out for that one. And cell plate formation during cytokinesis. Cell division features a complex of network of microtubules of Golgi vesicles and the pragmalates blast again as found in all land plants. So the DNA and RNA sequences support their close relation to the charophytes, especially in the clara and the chlorochate. So the DNA and RNA sequences is just a tools that they use to, after the extraction of DNA, where you find that the whole genome sequence or mitochondrial genomes, which will affirm, or they will check the differences or the similarity in the gene structure. And the terrestrial adaptation of land plants is that the land of the layer of sporopollen protest charophytes from the desiccation of sporopollen is found in the spore wall of the land plants. The danger of despination, which is required by the new adaptation in the transport tissues and cuticle, and plants are eukaryotes, multicellular, mostly heterotrophic organism with haploid diploid life cycle, which retain the embryo within the female sex organ on the parent plant, and the cell wall contains cellulose. And scientists are studying the structures of cell, analyzing the macromolecules, and comparing the morphology with life cycles. So the macromolecules, we're still gonna talk a lot. There's a huge chapter I think I had about the macromolecules, where also we're gonna be doing also the just hold on a second. Where was I? Yes, the terrestrial plants are eukaryotes. I think we have already talked much more about that plants are eukaryotic, and they're this characterization of the fact that they're mostly autotrophic organism with haploid diploid. So watch out for this, and also look out for this when you are checking into the, and there are several proposals to arrange boundary to the kingdom Plantae, which is only the fact that it's only eukaryotes. The present traditional system expanded to include in Charosians and kingdom Strapalia, and expanded further to include the green algae and kingdom Viridan Plantae. You know what? I think if it's okay with all of you, I think we can end it here.